Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. Well, guys, the moment has finally arrived. We've been waiting 2 years for this, and I'm very excited to get into this review. Was it worth the wait? Stay tuned and find out. If you've been looking at a lot of the reviews that have come out for this film, it's kind of half and half, maybe leaning a little bit towards the negative side. And I can kind of understand why with this film, because a lot of it probably has to do with the extreme violence of the film. This film really amps up the brutality big time. This is right there with like the Rob Zombie films as far as that goes. And I can see why that might turn some people off. But not me, because I love horror. And if it's used the right way, I like it. And because I can appreciate cool practical effects, you know, and there's a lot of great practical effects they use in this movie that I just love, you know. And if done the right way, and this film does do it in the right way in my personal opinion, because it does have some good suspense and tension. It doesn't forsake the suspense just for the gory kill, you know. There's some great lead up to the kills, you know. And it just brings home the fact that Michael Myers is an absolute force of nature. And that's another thing that I love about it. So, did I like this film? Hell yes, I loved it. So, was it a perfect film? No, not at all. I kind of find it similar to 2018, where the things they got right, they really got right. And they nailed. But there were some cringe-worthy moments that I didn't like, that stood out to me. And it's the same thing with 2018, you know. I watch that now, and I still have the same problems that I did in 2018, you know. So, there's no difference there, but I will say this movie is bigger, it's on a bigger scale, and I enjoyed that part of it, you know. But I will say there was some things that were better in this movie, like the atmosphere is fantastic, and the cinematography is fantastic in this movie. It's excellent. It brings me back to the days of Dean Cundey in the first two films, you know. Actually, he worked on part 3 as well. And I'm going to try my best not to spoil in this review, you know. I'm going to try to stay away from spoilers because I'm going to keep that for a separate review. So expect a spoiler-filled review. This is going to be the spoiler-free review. Now, I'm not spoiling anything because they've showed in the previews that there's a 1978 flashback scene to the original timeline of 1978. And I absolutely love that scene. I just think it's fantastic. It's so well done. And that's another scene where the cinematography was just beautiful. It was like looking at a painting. Some of the lighting and the shadow is just, magnificent. Great job. It's David Gordon Green. His direction in this movie is great. So I gotta hand it to him. He stepped up even more in this movie, I think, as far as the direction goes. And the attention to detail on the 1978 scene was amazing. It was so cool seeing that classic style Michael and the classic style mask of 1978. And it was used so well. There's one great scene where Michael is just kind of in the shadow when he looks up at this boy on the ground, and you can just like see it in the shadows, and it just looks so cool, you know. I loved it. And there is a certain character that, you know, there's a reason we go back to the 1978 scene, because it comes into play in this movie. And I liked how that was done. A certain character who shows up, and it's a surprise that that person shows up. But it was a nice little story arc to this character, and I enjoyed that. And it made for a good part of the story, you know. And it's not spoiling anything to tell you that we get some of the classic characters back from the original film. You get Kyle Richards returning as Lindsay Wallace, which she does a great job, I think. I would have loved to see her in some of the other movies, you know. I wish she kind of was in some of the other ones because she does such a good job here, you know. Even all these years later. So she was probably a standout to me as far as the original actors. And of course we got Marion Chambers returning, even though she died in H2O, but H2O doesn't matter anymore, so all bets are off. And we get Sheriff Lee Brackett. Charles Cypher's returning. That was pretty cool too. So he's a member of the hospital staff at Haddonfield Memorial. I guess he's like the security guard there. So that was really cool. And I will say one thing. As much as they try to erase Halloween 2 from 1981, there's even a scene from Halloween 2 in there. I'm like, wait a minute, that's Halloween 2 there. They just showed. I thought it was retconned, huh? And someone who's not a Halloween fan probably wouldn't notice it, but I noticed it immediately. Immediately, I was like, that's my Halloween 2, you know. But as much as they try to erase Halloween 2, there's a lot of Halloween 2 in this movie, you know. You could almost say it's almost like a remake, because, you know, we see Laurie get mortally injured and brought to Haddonfield Memorial Hospital, and she spends a good deal of the movie in there, in the hospital. And I do kind of right the wrong that a lot of people have issue with Halloween 2, is we do see a lot of the hospital staff. It's almost like they went out of their way to make sure that it's loaded with staff and patients, and, you know, we didn't really get that in Halloween 2, so. Is it better? I don't know. Absolutely, it's not better than Halloween 2, but I say that aspect at least kind of fixes the issue that some people had with Halloween 2, but it's just funny, you know, they retcon these movies, but then they show all this stuff like, you know, the Silver Shamrock masks from Halloween 3 are prominently in there, you know. They're in a major scene for a good period of time. Another thing I think is great, there's a lot of great Halloween atmosphere in here too, you know, the season of Halloween, so a lot of stuff with the trick-or-treaters, and I really enjoyed that too, you know, people in the costumes, and a lot of fun. And the score is amazing, like, definitely felt more like the classic score from the original Halloween. Like, there wasn't too much new stuff like they did with the 2018. This was more the classic Halloween style, and I really enjoyed it because it sounded great, like in the credits. I loved it. I mean, you see a couple different variations that were cool, but they stick pretty much to the classic score of Halloween from 1978, and I love that. But yeah, like I said, there is some great suspense, there's some great tension. There's one scene in particular I really, really enjoyed involving Lindsay Wallace. When, you know, the whole mob thing is pretty silly at times, and I'll get into that in a minute, but the one scene involving Kyle Richards as Lindsay Wallace and Marion Chambers, they go out kind of on the hunt to try and find Michael, but they see that there's a couple kids in the playground, and it's like late at night, and you got serial killer on the loose, so they kind of get out of the car and try and help these little kids and try and tell them to go home. And they start talking about, oh, I saw this creepy guy, he's trying to scare us, And they see Michael off in the background. I was like, ooh, that was cool. And then, you know, Michael chases Lindsay through the woods, and the cinematography in that scene is great. And James Jude Courtney, let me tell you, he kills it this time around. I mean, if you thought he was good as Michael in 2018, he's much better in this one even, and that's saying a lot. You've just got to give it to him. He's got to be on the top of the mountain when it comes to Michael Myers' portrayal. He's just great. He's just got all these little nuances that, you know, he brings to the role. I mean, he's so good. And like I said, I love the fact that they drive home that Michael is so cold-blooded and vicious, you know. Like, he just does not give a damn, you know. He will do whatever it takes, and he doesn't give a damn. He just wants to destroy people and destroy a body, and he's just pure evil, like Dr. Loomis says, you know, it's true. He's pure evil, cold-blooded as hell, and vicious, and they just nail it, you know. That's the best thing I can say about this movie, is they get Michael Myers 100% right. And now let's get into the negatives I have with the film. And that is kind of the whole mob thing, you know, getting the townsfolk together, you know, Tommy Doyle gathering people up to try and hunt Michael down because they feel like the police aren't doing enough, you know. This ends tonight, evil dies tonight, you know. It just gets a little much, it gets a little silly. I do like the concept of that idea of, you know, the town getting together to try and take him out. We saw a little bit of that in Halloween 4, and that was cool, but this is on a much bigger scale. I mean, there's like the whole town literally coming together to try and hunt down Michael and kill him once and for all. But there's some silly stuff that happens, you know, decisions that they make, you know, oh, come on. And it's like those classic horror tropes that we, you know, that we know so well over the years, especially with like 80s horror and stuff. And these slasher movies, a lot of slasher movies have these silly tropes, and this film is no exception. It's almost like they did it on purpose, you know. I'm not so sure, but there's some cringeworthy moments, and there is some cringeworthy dialogue too, like the whole "evil dies tonight." It just gets a little ridiculous at times. So, yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and say this is a perfect movie by any means. And there's some stuff with the dialogue where they got these one-liners, and they try and add a lot of exposition to try and say, like, these Dr. Loomis-type lines, you know. And it gets to be too much at times. Like, what, is everybody Dr. Loomis all of a sudden? They're giving these one-liners, like, trying to be like Dr. Loomis, and it just doesn't work. Even Laurie, at times, it gets a little ridiculous, but I will say that Jamie Lee Curtis is great in this movie. She does give another excellent performance. It's just that some of her dialogue, I feel like, was poorly written. I will say another standout is, believe it or not, Judy Greer as Karen. She really stepped it up in this movie. She was great, I thought, you know. And adding Andy Matichak as Allison Strode was very good as well, you know, once again. So I think they make a great addition to the franchise, to be honest. I was a little leery at first with Judy Greer. I thought it should have been Danielle Harris, you know, but that's just the geek in me, you know. But I've embraced her character at this point, and I think she gave a great performance. Some of the acting, though, was a little bit corny, like, you know, like Lonnie Elam and some of the other townsfolk. Although I did like Anthony Michael Hall, I thought he gave a strong performance, but some of his dialogue was a little cheesy too. But that's the part that I didn't like so much. But other than that, you know, I really enjoyed the film, and I highly recommend it. I think some of their negative reviews, I can understand why they have a problem with it because of some of that dumb decisions that some of the people make throughout the movie. It's like those cheesy old horror tropes, and they are prevalent in the movie, and there is a couple cringeworthy scenes. But there's greatness in there too. Like a film, I'm going to point out another film that a lot of people seem to hate, and that is Halloween 5. There's greatness in Halloween 5. I'm sorry, there's some really good stuff in there that people miss, and I think it's the same with this movie, you know. I will say that this is better than Halloween 5 because of the great direction by David Gordon Green. So definitely I give David Gordon Green all the props in the world, and I give James Jude Courtney all the props in the world because she's an absolutely fantastic Michael Myers. And I think the practical effects are excellent. I think the lighting and the camera work is spectacular, some of the best in the franchise. So from that point of view, this is a great Halloween movie, and to me this feels more like a classic Halloween movie than a lot of the others do, and including Halloween 2018. This to me feels more like a classic Halloween movie than 2018 did. And I just love it. I feel like David Gordon Green is the right person to do it, you know? I feel like Halloween is in good hands, and I am very much looking forward to Halloween Ends to see how the story continues and what happens next. I am very excited, so bring on Halloween Ends. I'm ready for it because I really enjoyed this movie, and so far I think this is a great trilogy, and I'm just so excited about Halloween again, you know. I was getting a little bit frustrated there with waiting so long, and then seeing so many previews and commercials. I was getting a little bit fatigued, to be honest, but I am very happy with the results. So I give Halloween Kills 2 devil horns up. And thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Erschen gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also, check out these awesome mugs we have, perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.